Hey, welcome to the All of You podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Siobhan Roy.
And I'm Dave Martinell.
Our relationship hasn't always been easy. Especially in the beginning, we were getting in the worst conflicts that sent us down a path of deep healing and inner work in order to get the relationship that we wanted.
So whether you're on your own healing journey or just looking to improve your relationships overall, we hope that by sharing our lessons and struggles, we help you along your way.
And with that, welcome to the podcast where we accept all of you.
Hello, Siobhan.
Hi, David.
How's it going?
It's going.
You scared?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah. Might need to take a few deep breaths. Thank you. I needed that. Yesterday was my brother's birthday. And when we were meditating last night, some stories popped up that I was sharing with Dave. And they have now since become the inspiration for today's podcast. So with that said, I'll kind of dive right in. I've mentioned this on previous episodes, but if you didn't catch them, when I was 16 years old, my brother, who was almost 18 at the time, we're a year and a half apart. We grew up best friends, super close. He was the closest person to me in my life. Right before his senior year and my junior year of high school, he was killed in a drunk driving accident. And there's a lot of ways that has impacted me in my life. So many. But for today's episode, I kind of want to shift away from, not even shift away. I'm not quite ready to talk about the direct ways that impacted me, mostly because I would just be sobbing on the microphone the whole time and I don't think you could actually understand me. What I want to talk about is kind of the secondhand trauma that came as a result of that accident, or of the original trauma, which was losing him. And that is how I was treated by people after I lost my brother.
Yeah, so that came up last night because, it was his birthday, and so we were talking about stories, kind of setting the table. I was asking you a little bit about your brother, but also about, I like to ask and hear from you what you're willing to share and kind of get bits and pieces over time. And I remember asking you if you know how it affected you. And you responded with, I don't know all the ways. So we kind of got into that. But I want to let the cat out of the bag a little bit before we get into it. Of this is really a big reason why you want to even do this podcast, why you're into emotional healing and trauma-informed work. We're not therapists, we're not psychologists, but we read, we have, I don't even know how many books on healing trauma, and it's just become such a passion of ours, self-awareness, emotional awareness, that anything that we can enlighten ourselves with, we do, and we work on it, and we try to, and then you also realize how much pain is caused from lack of awareness. And so kind of letting, the theme of the episode out early is your reason why you're into this work, why you've grown, why you've been into healing, the further you've gotten into it, it's become more of a mission and more of a purpose in your life. Kind of a lot of it's because of these events.
Totally. And I think I spent a lot of time denying that these events impacted me, which is really common. Most people, not most people, but a lot of people deny that they have trauma or that there are things that happen to them that have hurt them in a way that shows up in other avenues. And I think that's a little bit due to lack of awareness of how things impact you. And then it's also a tactic to avoid the pain of it, because it's really painful to resurface old wounds, which is all part of what healing is healing old wounds so that they stop impacting you. But I think I want to transition it into telling that through story instead of telling that through what you would read in a psychology book. And what I was reflecting on last night was how the impact my teachers had on me. So I was going into my junior year. My brother passed away. It was like 3 or 4 weeks before school started. And just to paint the picture, my brother was very well known in school, very well liked. And when he passed away, it was, I don't know how to articulate it other than like the whole community of I was in was talking about it, and it was highly publicized. And so when I went to school, I was the girl whose brother died. And I was always known as Cody Roy's little sister. I was one grade below, and he was very well known and kind of lived in those shadows in a positive way. But then all of a sudden I showed up at school and I was Cody Roy, the boy who died's sister. And when I would walk around, you could just feel people looking at you with that look of like, oh, that's her, or a look of empathy or sympathy. And it's the last thing you want in high school. For me, I just wanted to I don't know, fit in. I didn't want the spotlight of it, and especially a spotlight that's so negative. So school was really hard for me, and especially going to school where he should have been driving me to school. That's what we did the year before. He should have been on campus with me. He should have been standing with his friends where they would hang out, and I'd have to walk past that and see him not there. So there was a lot of pain going to school. And then I think on top of that, you're just in the depth of grief. You're in the depth of mourning. And I was a bit of a zombie, is how I would describe myself. I was in so much emotional pain that I had to really, I'd call it pseudoing, put a mask on and just pretend to be okay to get through school when I wasn't okay. And so it was a really, really just painful time. And I remember just thinking, I have to go to school because I have to get good grades so I can get into college, because college is my ticket out of this town where I'm known as Cody Roy, the boy who died's little sister. I just wanted to get away from that and the spotlight of it. But mentally, I was gone.
So last night when I asked you how it impacted you, you said that it wasn't so much the kids at school, but it was some events from the teachers and their lack of awareness that really hurt you. So if you're comfortable with it, do you mind sharing a little bit about one of those, or whichever ones you're comfortable with sharing, actually?
Yeah, and that's accurate. My classmates showed me so much kindness. My teachers, it was a mixed bag. And it's very memorable which ones treated me well and which ones didn't. And so the first situation that was mildly traumatic, I would say, was right at the beginning of the school year. I was in English class, and I had the teacher I had my brother in his class the year before, so was very aware of my situation. And he made an analogy in class about drunk driving, and I can't articulate it exactly how he said it, but it was saying that drunk driving isn't wrong, was like somehow fit into the analogy. And when he said that, the entire eyes of the classroom shifted to me to see how I was going to respond.
So it was noticeably, all the kids in the class noticed how uncomfortable that was for you.
Well, they had more awareness than the teacher of that statement's obviously going to impact me. Or they wanted to know how it would, what my reaction to that would be. And a lot of it was like glances of caring, of like, whoa, I can't believe he said that in front of her. And so me at the time when that was said, I was bottling so much just to get through school. I was bottling my grief, bottling my sadness and my anger and an unbelievable amount of emotions and just putting a face on. But in that moment, it was like a massive trigger. Like you poked right into my wound. And so I got up and I had a coffee in a styrofoam cup. And I remember I just got up and I took the coffee and I chucked it in the trash can and I left class. So that was kind of the first instance that was like just the unawareness that I'm not mad at him. It wasn't his fault. He just wasn't thinking. But that unawareness was really painful for me because I just wanted everyone to stop looking at me. And then the next instance that was more, I would say, a lot more traumatic was my chemistry teacher. And because I wasn't sleeping at night and I was so mentally, emotionally unwell, it was like I was in a fog in my brain for well over a year. And due to the lack of sleep, I really struggled in school more than I had ever struggled before because I was just not well. And chemistry was particularly hard for me. And I remember in class, focusing was so hard that my thoughts would wander and drift off, or sometimes I would drift off even into sleep because of the exhaustion. And this teacher would pick on me and he would call on me when he could tell I wasn't focused
All
and paying
there.
attention and all there. And he would ask me the answer and I wouldn't be able to answer it. And then I'd be embarrassed. And this happened a lot. And I really struggled in that class. So, and then I remember there was a super kind kid. He was a freshman in chemistry, like brilliant kid who sat next to me. And he would always try to help me because he could tell I was struggling. And then the teacher would yell at us and be like, stop helping her. And it just spotlighted me in the class in such a negative light that my dad went in to talk to the teacher about it, just to basically be like, hey, can you go a little easy on her? Like, she's not okay. And the teacher basically said back to him, like, then she shouldn't be in chemistry. Like, and then showed no mercy. He would say things in class to me like, how do you not get this? Everyone else in class is getting this in front of the class.
Just shaming.
Shaming, yeah. And
just emotionally unaware to your situation and not able to navigate, or because, like, you know, the devil's advocate, if there's anyone that's teachers, like you have 20, 30 kids, it's really hard to understand all their emotional states at any given moment. Totally understand. Your situation was a little different, where you
He
lost your
knew.
brother.
Yeah.
And there's just some things in life where the world kind of stops when those events happen, and a death in the family of somebody young is catastrophic, and so it's not like you were going through something at home a little bit, or had to break up with a high school boyfriend or something like that. Your brother died in a very traumatic way, and so the lack of awareness in the school, and this isn't to throw the teachers under the bus, this isn't to throw anyone under the bus who has lack of emotional awareness, but this is to, like we said from the beginning, to call out the reason why you believe that it's so important for society to gain emotional awareness so that we can stop causing pain.
Everyone needs to be trauma informed.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to do their own healing work, because that teacher was my assumption, I don't know, is he had very strong core beliefs of this is how schooling should be, this is how students should be, this is the way that it is, and she's not fitting into the box, and therefore, like, I can't tolerate it. And he needs to do his work to unpack why he thinks all students should act and be a certain way, and where that comes from within him, so that he can treat his students better, to not pass on the pain that he has within inside of him. So that's why I believe in healing. I believe that everyone needs to do their own healing work, or else they're going to unknowingly cause harm. That man has no idea the amount of harm that he caused me to this day.
Totally.
He has no idea. And that's why, but for me, I want people to be aware of how our actions impact others, how not being compassionate towards others creates more pain. If he would have had an ounce of compassion for my situation, it would have stopped me from being wounded in such deep ways, because that experience of having my teacher say things to me like, how come you can't get this when everyone else can, became a narrative that I kept with me throughout the rest of my life, where there's situations where I feel like if I don't get things as fast as everyone else, it triggers me. And
as your partner, I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that wound show up at certain times if I say things the wrong way, if I doubt your competency in some way that is like, I have to tiptoe around it, and I'm still learning how to do that. But, I'm happy to do that because you have a wound there.
Right. And it is my responsibility to heal that wound. But I actually wasn't aware until very recently of that wound and where that came from, and then how it shows up in my life. And that is the healing work, right? It's finding these wounds and healing them so that I show up better.
Yeah, it sucks that when, somebody hurts us, we have to do the work to care for our wound. But, just like one time I was snowboarding and I got hit by a skier. Like, never thought that would be the way that my biggest snowboard injury would be from somebody coming behind me and just clocking me full speed. And he didn't have to heal from that wound that he caused. I had to heal my wound, my shoulder pain, like just like physical wounds, emotional wounds caused by others, we still have to heal them. It just sucks, but
it's a really bummer of a reality that someone else hurt us, and it's now our responsibility to fix it.
And it's not, I would say, like, it's not I agree with that statement, but I also believe that this work is not for the faint of heart. And so it's to your benefit to heal it. Like, it's not even just like your responsibility. It's just to your benefit.
Well, I see it as a responsibility, and
Yeah.
I'm countering you on that, because if you don't heal your wounds, you pass the pain on in different ways.
Yeah.
Me not healing that is why we fight sometimes, because you'll say something and then I react out of that wound and then cause an argument because I'm trying to protect that pain I have within me. So if I don't heal it, I create more pain, and it comes out in different ways. So it is my response. I see it as my responsibility.
I love that about you, and that's why I chose you as a partner. But I
You disagree with that?
no, I don't. I just am trying to sell it better. Like the responsibility factor of telling people that their responsibility is to heal their trauma, I think wouldn't have sold me when I was in it. I would have been like, F you, I'm going to live my life how I want to live it. But what sold me is, oh, you want good relationships in your life, right? You want love, and you want to love well. You want to parent well and be a good dad. You're going to have a really hard time being a good dad if you don't heal your trauma, because you're going to pass it down to your kids. You're going to get triggered. You're going to get so upset with them about something that's not really reasonable. And then they're no longer going to trust you that you're a reasonable human, because your wounds are showing up and they don't understand them. And so they're just going to start to write you off as that's just the way dad is some irresponsible or erratic, not consistent human. I just didn't want that. And so that's what kind of sold me. So like I don't even want to like approach it as, well, let me rephrase. I think your goal, because this is about you, and from everything that you've told me, your goal is not to shame those people that hurt you or even hold them so much responsible, as it is to just highlight how emotional immaturity, lack of awareness, putting people in boxes, especially children in school, can do so much damage to society. You think you're doing a good job because you think the kid in your class needs to learn chemistry, but really the emotional damage you're doing is 1,000 fold on their life compared to what good chemistry will do for them. Like, we need to be teaching this stuff in school. Where's the emotional awareness class to understand how we impact each other and the connection we have with each other as humans? I mean, with the divorce rate above, 50%, the amount of kids that are being shamed in schools and by their parents and by each other, the amount of fear that's, rampant in our society. Where is the emotional awareness class? Where is it? I'm calling for it right now. Like, where is a teacher that's so emotionally aware that they can create a class? I'm sorry. I wish I would have gone. Maybe it's my job. I don't know. I'm asking for help from other people who maybe have the qualifications that I don't have to step up. And if I can help in any way, I would spend my life dedicating to try to push this narrative of emotional awareness. And I just believe it's the most important thing because of exactly those examples.
Well, and I think the importance of that is there's also the flip side of the teachers that were kind to me. I had a teacher who he was a senior teacher of seniors, and I was only a junior at the time, but he pulled me out of class. And
not even your teacher.
He was not my teacher, but he pulled me out of class, and he was so kind. He took me on a walk around school, and he said, this summer you joined a club that I'm in, and it's a club no one wants to be a part of. He said, I lost my brother too. So I want you to know my classroom's a safe space for you. If you ever need it, just come in. And like anything you need, I'll be your support. He's like, I get it. And I never took him up on it. But just knowing that I had that, huge. Like, makes me emotional even to this day. And that's the difference that emotional awareness, kindness, and compassion can make, is those who are willing to see someone in pain and be kind and gentle and loving towards them, and those that are blinded by their own pain and can't see others
or acknowledge.
Will keep causing more pain. And I guess like the example of that is, on the flip side, I had another teacher who, it was now my senior year, and I'm in English class. And I remember, I don't even know what he was trying to teach, but there were all these videos, and the names of the videos were on the screen. And one of the titles of the videos was Drunk Drive-Thru. And I went, oh my God, there's no way I can watch that video and be okay. So I wrote him a note that said, can you not play that video? And while another video was playing, the lights were off in class, I like kind of crept over to his desk and I got down low where people wouldn't see me, and I slid the note to him because I knew if I said it out loud, I would have cried. And he said, no, you'll be fine. And I said, can I go to the bathroom while you play it? And he said, no. And so I went back to my desk and he played the video, which was like a car that was drunk trying to order drinks in a drive-thru. And the car was like ramming, like running into things. And I watched as all the eyes in class, the entire video, were not on the screen. They were on me. And I was fighting tears in my eyes. And as I mentioned before, I was bottling so much at that time that everything erupted out of me. And I got up and I stormed out of class and I went to the bathroom and I lost it. I was sobbing. And a girl in class came and tried to console me, but I was livid. I was like, I'm going to burn the place down, angry at him, because it wasn't just him. It was a lot of what I was bottling too at the time. That was just kind of the event that unleashed it all, which is what happens when you bottle your emotions. But then the classroom had 2 doors. And I remember I walked back through the classroom stomping, and I grabbed my things and I walked through the other door and I walked straight to the office, and I got to the front and said, I need to speak to the principal. And they were like, what? And I was like, I need to speak with the principal. And they were like, okay, her office is over there. And I walked into her office and I sat down and I just told her what happened. And I said, I will not be returning to class until the 3 of us meet, you, I, and the teacher, and he gives a formal apology. And she was like, we're not going to be able to accommodate that. And I said, then I won't be returning to class. And she said, okay, well, it's a conflict of interest for me to do it. You need to do it with the school psychologist. And I said, no, that's not enough. You need to be present in the room. And she was like, I'm really sorry. I can't accommodate that. So then later that day, the teacher, the school psychologist, and I sat down, and he gave the most bullshit, lukewarm, non-apology apology you will ever hear. And it just made it worse. Like, his lack of accountability for what he did made it worse. And then I felt like the principal wasn't even holding him accountable for the pain he caused me. And I just had so much anger. And all that if he just had an ounce of emotional awareness, I wouldn't have had to endure trauma from my trauma. And so it's like, yes, losing my brother was traumatic, but the way I was treated afterwards just made the trauma worse.
Yeah, the ripple effects.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I am an advocate for this work, for healing, for being trauma informed, because when when people are not, they continue to hurt others and they pass their pain on. Had that teacher had an ounce of emotional awareness and kindness and compassion in his heart, that situation could have been avoided for a girl who was so fragile at that time. So I think that's all of that. The reason I share that is because that's the importance of the work for me. That's my mission of why I want people to heal. That's why I want to spread awareness, because the lack of it caused me so much pain.
Yeah. And had they been emotionally aware, maybe they would have shown up like the guy who wasn't even your teacher. And, we could say, well, he had the same pain, so he understood, but we can learn this stuff too without having to learn it the hard way. Like the depths of the pain might, no one can quite empathize with you that hasn't walked in your shoes. But even though I didn't lose a brother in high school, I can empathize with you because of the work that I've done to understand emotions. And so I don't have to go through that pain to be able to empathize with you. If we can teach people about this stuff, then they don't have to go through the pain to learn it, and then we have more emotionally aware teachers and more, not just teachers, everywhere, bosses, managers.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times has someone gone to their boss and told them their emotional state, and the boss goes, sorry, you got to come in? And it's tough. It's not a perfect science because there are people that abuse it. There are people that, will get a splinter and call out sick for work. But we need to be able to judge that. We need to be able to be emotionally aware to understand somebody's state of mind and where they're at, and meet them where they're at, and set boundaries when we need to. So if they get a splinter every day and they can't come into work, then they can't have that job maybe, or it's not the right fit. We just need to, we try to set these rules that apply to everyone and put them in these boxes. And by doing that, we take out the importance of emotions. And so it doesn't matter how you're feeling. It doesn't matter what has happened to you in your life. These are the rules, and these rules are the best we got. And it causes more harm than good in a lot of ways. It's not community. That's not community. That's not how community should operate. Like where you're getting shoveled through the school system, no matter your emotional state. Community is supposed to understand, especially a teacher. It's like, all right, how can we help you? Do you need extra support? What does that look like? Let me meet with your parents and help. And I like to think that nowadays it probably would be handled a lot differently. The emotional awareness, I think, has, progressed, but who knows?
Maybe yes, maybe no. I think it's like on an individual case basis with each person. But I do think as a society, it is becoming, there's a growing awareness of this. And I think like kids are now being taught to handle their feelings and emotions more than we were as kids. So I think there is a growing awareness that is happening.
Well, and like I would learn if I was a kid in 3rd grade and a teacher was trying to teach me math, I would take an unaware teacher who doesn't know how anything, who never even went to college. Sorry, I would take an emotionally aware teacher who never even graduated high school or never went to college to teach me multiplication above somebody who went to college and learned all these extra math curriculums to teach, but is emotionally unaware. Because If you're being shamed, you're going to shut down. You're not going to be able to learn. So like you in chemistry class, like somebody who had a basic level of chemistry but high emotional intelligence could have handled you better that year and understood how to teach you and connect to you versus somebody who was a brilliant chemist but not the emotional awareness. So we need to evaluate, especially teaching should be emotional awareness should be the first like I would venture to say it's more important for a teacher to go to college for emotional intelligence than it is to go to college for their field that they're going to teach in. Because I don't care if you know it, can you teach it? And to teach it, you have to be able to connect to others. You have to be able to set the table to make a psychologically safe environment for somebody to learn in. Just because you're brilliant at the subject doesn't mean you can teach it if you can't even create a psychologically safe environment at all. And that just frustrates the hell out of me because I was smart. I am smart. I can figure things out, but I didn't have enough emotionally intelligent people around in school to understand what I was going through as a kid to create it. So from the get-go, I was behind the eight ball.
Well, and not to take this down the avenue of the school system, because that's not what this episode is fully about. But I do want to say that the school system was created to mostly create factory workers back when schools were kind of being formed. And so the roots of the school system have a lot of shaming kind of conditioned into them in how kids are treated. So I mean, we have a lot of thoughts on this, but the reform of school systems is something big on our hearts, that there's just kind of a lack of awareness in general in the school system that is really harmful for kids.
Yeah.
And it was for me. I know it was for you. And I think there's so many of us that feel that way.
Totally. Yeah. It's just a lack of emotional awareness does damage, whereas high level of emotional awareness heals and helps, supports. So wherever anyone's at on the spectrum, as a society, we can help promote this. I mean, it's just, to me, it's so much more important than any of the normal subjects we teach in school. Do we really need another, I don't know, car company, car dealership? Like, we need emotional health in our society. But thank you for sharing all that. I think those stories are impactful. And
Well, there's actually one thing I wanted to share on that too. And it's the reason I share those stories as well is when we were sitting last night and talking, and you were asking, like, am I aware of all the ways that I've been impacted by losing my brother? The answer was no. And when I started thinking about these stories, because they hold so much emotional weight inside of me, I started going, oh, I'm carrying all of these. I'm not totally sure how they show up. Here's some ways I think they have shown up, but I haven't really unpacked it all yet. And it highlighted to me and reminded me that there's so much inside all of us that has happened that we, in the moment when we're trying to survive, we go, yeah, but I'm strong. This is what I did. I'm strong. I can handle it. And like, I almost for a long time kind of carried this like, yeah, I'll prove him wrong. I'm going to prove that teacher wrong. I actually remember after I went to NASA and closed a sales deal, I remember leaving NASA and going, oh, if Mr. Broussard could see me now, look at, I just sold a deal to NASA. Like, I remember having this like desire to, and that's how it kind of came out sideways for me, is like, I almost had this like fuel in me, like I need to prove this teacher wrong. 10 years later, that I'm like, I am smart, because it was almost like ingrained. Through that traumatic event in his classroom, there was a part of me that believed I wasn't smart because he kept telling me I wasn't smart, but that wasn't the reality of the situation. But that's how it imprinted on me as a child. And so I wasn't aware until years later in doing this work of going, oh, that's where that narrative came from. Oh, yeah, it wasn't that I wasn't smart. I was going through a really traumatic season of life and not sleeping at night, like brain fog. Like, of course, I struggled in chemistry class.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to give myself what I needed now in order to heal that wound. But I spent many years being unaware of the impact of that event on me. And we all have events like that. I'm not alone in this. You have them too. All of you, everyone listening, there's things that happen to you that have caused you pain that still is hurting you. And it's coming out sideways in different ways. And when you find those things and you're able to heal through them, it's such a gift for me to be able to go, no, that teacher was wrong. I am smart. And be able to heal that wound is turning something that was really heavy and hard for me and kind of taking that pain away and taking that insecurity away, and is helpful for me moving forward. So I share it more to encourage, don't be a Mr. Broussard, don't cause harm, but also in the ways that harm was caused to you, I encourage you to face that hard and face that pain, to heal it so that you can feel lighter and live lighter and not be weighed down by the trauma.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I don't know what to add to it. I'm kind of speechless for once.
And that's why I'm a fan of healing.
Well, I think that's the reason for the podcast, and the reason for talking about it, the reason for just everyone. If this became more normalized in our society, like, because I think there's like this voice that's like, stuff is heavy. This stuff is not fun. This stuff isn't entertaining. It's like, yeah, it's not always fun. It's hard work, and it's not everyone's passion. It's our passion, and not everyone is supposed to have a podcast on healing and inner work. But we feel called to do it because we see the lack in society talking about it and how much damage it's doing in not talking about it. So there's this pendulum swing a little bit in why we talk about it so much. But if we all normalize this, then yeah, we probably wouldn't have a giant movement around healing and inner work. We would have it taught in a class in school. And you know, as you grow up, you kind of just, it's normalized to learn about this stuff. But there's a giant hole in our society where people aren't talking about their trauma, and they're acting as if nothing's happened to them. And that's a problem. That creates a lot of harm. We have a huge homeless culture in America, and I don't know if culture is the right word, but we have
homeless population.
Yeah, a huge homeless population in our society, and there's just so many people that are hurting and in pain that need therapy, and there's not enough therapists. And so I'm of the belief we, all need to be each other's therapists. I think a friend can be a good therapist if they are informed and understand it. You don't have to be have gone to a 4-year degree and read all the psychology books to be an emotional supportive friend or partner. And emotional support is a critical aspect of humanity, and it's what we're called to do for each other. And we've narrow-minded that into, oh, that's what your therapist should do. Okay, so now what was supposed to be my friends and my family and my parents, my teacher, and I was supposed to get this need met emotionally through my society, I now get that we've outsourced it to a person called a therapist. And I just don't think that you're ever going to get your needs met like that. I don't think 1 hour a week with a therapist that you don't even know anything about them is going to heal your trauma. Now, it's not. It's good.
It will heal some trauma.
It will heal. It helped me.
We're still advocates for
I am
it.
a massive advocate for therapy. I will tell anyone to go to therapy. I've done so much, therapy. I loved it, and it was what introduced me to this work. But what will help even more so is everyone having the capability to be emotionally aware, not just the therapists and psychologists. And so let's normalize friend therapy. Let's normalize two buddies going out for a beer and not just talking shit, but getting into it and being able to be there for each other. Like, let's normalize having a man and a man be able to emotionally support each other. Is that not possible? Like, can we do that? Can a man show up for a beer with a buddy and go, I'm in pain because something happened with my wife or my kids or whatever, and the guy goes, let me make space for you here. Let me make space to talk about that with you and help you. That was a full-on earthquake.
You think it's an earthquake or the bombs going off in?
That was an earthquake.
Really?
That was an earthquake. The oven shook.
Dang.
And I did not hear the bomb.
Well, our house is still standing, so that's a good sign.
That was an earthquake.
Dang.
On camera.
Huh.
Wow. All right. I think we got to wrap. That was a good one. Thank you for sharing all that.
Welcome.
Anything else you want to add?
I think the last thing I would say, because I was a little bit guilty that I name dropped the teacher.
I can cut it out.
Maybe I shouldn't have, but I don't hold resentment towards him. I did for a long time, but I really hope he heals. I might send him the episode. Well, maybe that's a bad idea. We'll see after we edit it.
Hope they heal.
I hope he heals. That's kind of where I stand now. Really towards all the teachers that hurt me is I hope that they heal.
Lack of awareness isn't something that we are mad at anyone for. It's just we're trying to call people to do their work. Help the world heal.
Yep. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.